What's going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Tyler Horka here with a impromptu live show here on our Blue and Gold YouTube channel, talking about the big news of the day. Tommy Rees, that news is broken. He is broken. Yeah, whatever. He's going to Bama as offensive coordinator for Nick Saban. Tyler, I mean, as the news broke yesterday that he was going to Tuscaloosa for an interview, and there was an Alabama playing with that big A on the side. At that point, it was pretty darn clear that he was going to end up at Bama, but still, the news breaks today. What's your first reaction?
Yeah, that plane doesn't roll in here and leave without securing whoever it's coming for very often. So when I saw that, the writing kind of felt like it was on the wall, because this is something that we've talked about on the message board with so many people for so long. It's out on the Twitter sphere. The whole, is Tommy Rees staying? Is Tommy Rees going? I mean, go back to just over a year ago when Brian Kelly originally left, and the whole question was, okay, who's going to stay? Who's going to go? Tommy Rees was one of the biggest guys in that conversation. Everybody had all of their eyes on him. He ends up coming out with that video where he tells the whole team inside the Goog, hey, I'm staying. I want to win a national championship here. But even then, even when that video came out, it felt like, okay, Notre Dame has him for another year. This is probably going to happen again next year. It turns out Alabama is the team that comes after him, and Nick Saban can make a pretty compelling case.
Yeah, I had like something that no one was talking about, Tyler, after the season ended was like, no coaching change moves. Like there's nothing. And I was like, there's always something. And I had asked a source about that. And the feeling was, this is what I was told. I wasn't told any specific names of people who could leave. I was told was, Mike, the NFL hasn't opened up yet. So that domino of Bill O'Brien leaving for the Patriots, that opens up the Alabama offensive coordinator position, which then, of course, Tommy Rees takes. So, yeah, that's where we stand, folks. I mean, this news just broke, about 45 minutes to an hour ago. And we do have wall-to-wall coverage at blueandgold.com. Tyler has an article, what losing Tommy Rees to Alabama means for Notre Dame. I have the recruiting impact side of things. Patrick Angle has the list of some potential names to keep an eye on. Obviously, it's still very early in this coaching search, and with this month, this is something we saw, last year. Notre Dame really needed to get their hires done for assistants before that big, like mid-January recruiting weekend they had. Now Notre Dame has the month of February before like March rolls around, and you have recruiting weekend, spring ball is close, so Notre Dame has some time here to make the right hire. It's not something, and you can disagree with me, Tyler, where Notre Dame needs to get something done here in the next week or two.
Yeah, this is an odd time for it. A lot of people are going to say, oh, I hate that it's happening so late in the game. I wish this would have happened to where Notre Dame would have had weeks and months to kind of get this thing done, because you do want somebody in before spring ball, obviously. And we haven't gotten anything from Notre Dame when that officially starts, but that's going to be mid-March, let's call it. So Notre Dame has a month and a half. There are going to be people who have said, oh, I wish Notre Dame had 2 months, 3 months to get it done. But they would have been fighting everybody else. The coaching carousel in college football is crazy. You don't want to be one of those schools that's wrapped up in a sweepstakes of, oh, who's going to get this guy and where's that guy going? Notre Dame is kind of on its own right now. Obviously, Alabama was just on its own when Bill O'Brien left, and everyone for about a week there, 2 weeks, whatever it was, everyone was like, who is Alabama going to hire as its offensive coordinator? It ends up being Tommy Rees from Notre Dame. But now Notre Dame is in that kind of catbird seat where you're sitting there going, we could poach anybody if we wanted to. If we wanted to go get this guy from that school who even already made a move. There are some guys on Patrick Angle's list there who made offseason moves. Notre Dame could go get that guy. That's been done in college football before, where multiple people make a move in the same, or someone makes multiple moves in the same offseason. So that can happen. Look, Notre Dame has about 6 weeks to get a guy. It's probably going to happen sooner than later. It's a staff that has some continuity to it, because like you said, Mike, this is the first thing that's really happened on the coaching front. So there's a lot of people who are working with kind of the same focus and from coming from a same perspective as Marcus Freeman, obviously Jared Parker, who's probably in the mix for this job, but he's certainly going to get a look. There's a lot of people who are going to combine heads and try to get this thing done.
Yeah. What's interesting is that the coaches are on vacation right now.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean their dead period started on the first. So
Right.
yeah, I had been told kind of secondhand, third hand, like some people that I know who had talked to like an Al Golden, and Golden was like, I don't know anything about Tommy Rees leaving for Alabama. You tell me what's going on. So that's kind of where we're at with the process. And I want to go back to what I was saying before about like, the NFL opening up could lead to changes on the coaching staff. When I was told that, I had two names popped in my head. It was Rees, and I thought maybe Rees to the NFL because I think it's kind of known that Rees is he's not a big fan of recruiting, but I still think that him going to Bama is a stepping stone to the NFL. Maybe he could have gotten quarterback's job, but if you go and you go work for Nick Saban and you do really well for a year or two, the NFL will come calling for you, or an FCS job, low level G5 job, maybe. Heck, I mean, Marcus Freeman went from Cincinnati DC to Notre Dame DC to head coach at Notre Dame, so maybe he could be even a head coach at a notable Power Five school. But now, with all that being said, now Golden, I don't want to get too off topic, but Gold, I don't think is a grinder of a recruiter either. Like, I don't think that's what he loves. Does he want to go back to the NFL? Does he want to nab a college job? So I still think Notre Dame might not be out of the woods just yet. But by all accounts, from what I'm told, Golden should be good with Notre Dame. But again, don't want to go too far off. But yeah, folks, please do hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Drop a super chat if you want to. Like, I ain't afraid of no goats. Says, I'm so tired of this. People talk about my heart and love, especially from an alum. And he says, sorry, that was voice chat. Look, I ain't afraid of no goats. I hear you, I think. I appreciate the super chat. And I hope you have a great weekend. See some other comments from you. And I really do appreciate the 5 there. Freeman will make a big hire, I'm sure. Tyler, you got to think that Parker will get a look, but yeah, it's got to be an outside hire, and since he's got some time, I think he'll make a pretty good one here. But we say a pretty good one, and then Notre Dame will go 3-and-out the first game, and then everyone will want him fired. But I guess we'll see. Sorry, Tyler, I had you muted there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you had me muted. I could have done that myself, but yeah, this doesn't feel like the in-house hire with Jared Parker, and I'm not saying that because Jared Parker's a bad coach by any means, but you go from West Virginia as an offensive coordinator to Notre Dame's tight end coach. He seems like he's really kind of relishing in this role and not having everything on him. I think it'd be a little bit of a leap to go from tight ends coach 1 year to, okay, let's put you back in the saddle and put you in as the offensive coordinator. So I think this is an experienced hire, but it could still be a young hire, and look no further than Tommy Rees as an example of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who are learning about Tommy Rees today outside of the Notre Dame sphere, because when Alabama hires a coach, there's a lot of people hopping on Google to figure out who Tommy Rees is. They're probably pretty shocked to find that he's 30 years old, and this is going to be his 4th year as an offensive coordinator. He has a year in the NFL under his belt with the Chargers. I think that was back in 2016 before he went to Notre Dame as the quarterbacks coach in 2017. So he's 30 years old. He's really experienced. Notre Dame could find a guy like that. I think they're out there. It's really early in the game, obviously, and we have some names at blueandgold.com right now, but I think there are some other 30-something-year-old offensive coordinators out there who have already done a lot in college football. I think that would excite Notre Dame fans if Notre Dame's got somebody like that. Because I don't know if you go and get the like Dan Mullen, for example. A lot of people are going to be excited because you see the national championships, but this is a guy who was an offensive coordinator 2 decades ago, a really good one, and then he was a head coach at Mississippi State, worked his way up the ladder to Florida, didn't work out there, and now he's been a broadcaster. Do you want that guy if you're Notre Dame? I'm not sure. The point being is there's a lot of different ways that Marcus Freeman can take this thing. And at the end of the day, it's a really big hire. He has to settle on the guy that can not only get things done in 2023, but probably beyond that too, because I think this is going to be a long-term hire.
Yeah. Some comments here from YouTube. Are we going to keep Hartman? I think so. I think that I think he came for Notre Dame. Like, I think part of it was you build a strong relationship with Rees, but how quickly can you build a relationship with someone that it's that big of a deal? We're talking a week or so, so I know there's the Bill Rees connection with Hartman. I believe I had read, but still, I think Hartman's here for Notre Dame. He's already started classes, and I don't even know if there's any NCAA eligibility experts on the YouTube chat, which there always are. You let me know, but the guy just transferred to Notre Dame and started classes. Can he now transfer again? Maybe that's a waiver. I don't know if grad transfers can go from Wake Forest to Notre Dame to Alabama within 2 weeks or something. Like, I don't know if that's a thing that you can do, but Tyler, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a topic of conversation yesterday. From my understanding, he couldn't transfer to Alabama and just up and start school there like next week on
Wait
Monday.
till the summer, you think, or something?
He's got to be at Notre Dame, or at least online classes through Notre Dame through this semester. He's a Notre Dame student this semester. This is a guy who's in his 6th year of college ball. Does he really want to spend his last spring not going through a spring practice and getting to know the guys that he's going to be throwing the ball to? Look, Alabama is just as intriguing to Hartman as it was for Rees to go down there and to be with Nick Saban. But I think this, from a player's perspective, it's all too much too soon. And like you said, Mike, you made a really good point in saying that
Thank you.
I don't think this was a Tommy Rees instigated move for Hartman. It was influenced by Tommy Rees, but Sam Hartman has thrown 0 of his 110 passes in college football, touchdown passes, under Tommy Rees. He can do it under anybody. And I wrote that at blueandgold.com. My article has a lot to do with Sam Hartman is going to be really good at Notre Dame with whoever walks through that door. It would have been with Tommy Rees. It's probably going to be with the next guy. I think he stays.
Yeah, I do too. I have so many thoughts that I want to share right now. So I hope you guys just keep posting comments that make me think of some of these thoughts. And this is a good one right here. Rees and Freeman was an arranged marriage period. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. People want to talk about, well, was Freeman basically hired and it was like a silent agreement before it was officially announced, and then they brought in Rees, or was Rees hired and then Freeman hired with the thought, well, you need to keep the band together, especially Rees? I think the latter is what a lot of people I talk to think, but I think what Josh says here, our Ian book clone, is it's basically that I kind of agree with it. And I think this is the last Brian Kelly remnant. I mean, Coach O'Leary worked under Rees, but Freeman hired Chris O'Leary as the safeties coach. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly. So, yeah, I think this is a good comment here. And then Hank with the $5. Appreciate the super chat. It says Marcus Freeman has had every curveball a head coach can be dealt with, all within year one. Who is the best offensive coordinator to keep the recruits and mold Hartman? Is there someone in mind that you have? I threw a name at you yesterday, Tyler, when we were texting.
I don't remember what I ate for breakfast, let alone what you said. Yes. Who did you say again?
Joe Moorhead.
Oh, yeah, Joe Moorhead. I have experience with him. I need to text him. I told you that I could text him. Covered him for 2 seasons at Mississippi State. He was kind of dealt a bad hand there. And Mississippi State's not exactly the first place you want to take your first Power 5 coaching job. It's a hard place to win. Dan Mullen is really the only guy that's done it consistently there over the last few decades. But I think he'd be a good choice. He's an excellent offensive mind. Someone that Patrick – I don't want to give away all of Patrick's article here, but there's a name on Patrick's list, Kevin Johns, the Duke offensive coordinator. This is a guy that's obviously very in tune with everything that Sam Hartman has to offer going against him. I just did my film review of Duke versus Wake Forest the other day. Duke got the best of Wake Forest in that game. I think they won 34-31. So it was an offensive game. You had 2 really good offensive guys going at it in Johns and Hartman. And some of the stuff that Johns did with Riley Leonard, the Duke quarterback, who I think this was his first year starting last season, dude completed, 64% of his passes. So that's what you're looking for. You would love if Sam Hartman completed 64% of his passes this year. Ran for 700 yards, 20 touchdowns through the air. I think he had like 10 more on the ground. So knows how to work with a dual threat quarterback, was in the ACC, is familiar with Hartman. I think he was a guy that ended up on Alabama's hot boards a lot. And I'm not sure if he got a look there. Obviously, I don't cover Alabama, but his name is being floated out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Johns gets a call from Notre Dame.
Interesting. I would throw out Joe Brady. I mean, he's the Bills' offensive or quarterbacks coach right now. So, quarterbacks coach. I mean, Josh Allen. That's a pretty attractive thing, but I don't know. Notre Dame's able to drop a bag on Joe Brady. I think that would be a really good hire, and something that it's kind of been floated out there in the rumor mill. J Per 12 says, "Do you think we'll see any players leave because of Rees leaving?" I really don't think so. And guys, I don't want to be the well, he's gone now, so I can talk crap about him. Um, but he like Reese was. I just want to say this more for informational purposes and not because of a personal vendetta against Tommy Reese. I have nothing against the guy, but from everything I've gathered, he's not like a super likable figure. You know, like I don't think people are crying in South Bend right now. I really don't. Um, so I don't know how many players are upset. Like I think maybe Buckner. I think maybe like I know Reese and Buckner had a really tight relationship, but the players, staff, like I don't know how many people are crying right now. I'll just leave it at that.
And I'll say one more thing about that. The best word, polarizing. I think you love them or you hate. I don't want to say you hate them, but
No, I like that. I mean, yeah, maybe
polarizing.
not hate. I got a little story. There was a recruit, and it'll be hard to pinpoint which recruit because I've been covering Reese since I've been covering Notre Dame, and the recruit that in question here loved Tommy. Loved Tommy. Parents didn't get it. They're like, I don't get how you can like this man. He's just different. But like he really relates to the kids and this kid really liked him. But like the parents were like, this is a weird, polarizing dude. So yeah, he's kind of a mixed bag. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot of you tears shed right now. But maybe some. I think this is a good going back to Ian Book's clone's comment saying, the forced marriage thing. This is a good clean slate. This is a clean slate for Freeman. He'll have made after this hire. He'll have hired everyone on the staff. You got on the list. There's even things. Oh, Tyler. I don't know if I'm gonna get in. Yeah, let's do it. Jared Parker, he did not sign off on. Like Freeman hired Jared Parker without like Reese's blessing there. So it's just like, and there was like an ego thing about that. And then I heard that, he went and interviewed at Miami last off season because Freeman, went after Parker without his like so much stuff. And I was like, really? It just seems so petty, but I guess that's just the college football world. But
That's like relationship stuff, right? And when enough of that stuff happens, it's probably time to break it off. And this is that point. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, it had been trending this way, right? It's like every offseason that comes up, it was okay, what's Tommy Reese's deal?
yeah,
It finally came to this.
yeah, yeah. And as far as Carr, I think CJ Carr's fine. I think Sam Hartman's fine. Um, personally, my opinion, I thought Buckner was going to be gone regardless of what happens here. Now, when you look at Alabama's quarterback room, talent but unproven, I think Buckner could go. I wouldn't be surprised. Like this is the one that would make sense if he's gonna have a Notre Dame player go with him, and if that happens, I know Mike Goolsby will be crying.
Isn't
But
it crazy that we're living in a world where Alabama is poaching Notre Dame offensive coordinators and potentially quarterbacks? Like what is going on?
yeah, I like Charlie Charlie Weiss as a candidate. I think is an interesting one. You definitely look at some Notre Dame ties. Charlie Weiss I think would be an interesting one. How about this? I've got this pulled up. Paul Feinbaum spoke about this, and
Yeah.
Tyler used to be a regular on the Paul Feinbaum show when Tyler was covering SEC land. And this is what Feinbaum said about Rees going to Bama. He says, "What it tells me is that he wanted out of Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a private school, and I don't think private schools can compete any longer in the NIL place." I'm going to say this is supposed to be space. That's That's a typo because their alumni are not going to contribute the same degree as the bigger schools. And he went on to say, let me say this young guy, I mean, whether Notre Dame fans are happy or not, I don't know. I think there's going to be mixed opinions. He's in the same spot. We've seen people like, and I believe he's talking about Marcus Freeman here. Or what's he? We've seen people like Jim McElwain, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Brian Daboll. I'm guessing these are all people that have been with Saban and then gone on to other jobs. These are some major names. In no way has he proved himself to be in the same league as any of them. So that doesn't mean he won't be successful. Challenge he's leaving behind a proven quarterback, Sam Hartman. Yeah, I don't know. He's not, Rees is not, like I said, he's not going in with this brilliant quarterback room. It's talented. He's got a guy in Ty Simpson there who will be going into sophomore season who Rees recruited. He inherits a 2024 quarterback in Julian Sand commit who Rees also recruited at Notre Dame. So, it's a promising quarterback room, but what Rees does, I don't know. I had a Bama reporter call me yesterday to kind of get a feel on Rees, and I'm like, he and Tyler, I'll quit my rambling after this. So what I told him was Rees, the offense was so running back and tight end oriented, and the reporter goes, oh, well, so he was just kind of working with what he had. But I'm like, yeah, but partly a lot of that's his fault. He's been the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for so long that this is kind of on him. So I think he's a good coach, but him as a recruiter, there's a lot that is left to be desired.
Yeah, and it goes kind of back to what you were talking about originally, and then what you just showed from Feinbaum there is, I don't want to call this an easy way out for Rees, but he gets to go to a place where the wealth of riches is a little bit more. I mean, Alabama had the number one recruiting class in the country, right? That just finalized a couple days ago. Mike, you know better than I. I mean, is this one of the? It seems like every year this happens, but it's probably one of the better classes anyone's ever seen, right? Rees gets to go down there, and at Notre Dame, you could still bring really good players into Notre Dame. Notre Dame just closed with the number 9 recruiting class in the country. That's really good. But how hard did these coaches, you know better than anybody, Mike, how hard they had to work for that. Like Rees had to change the way he approaches recruiting to do that, right? And Brian Kelly just went to LSU because it's a little easier to recruit down there. What did LSU finish? I didn't see, Brian Kelly, of all people, finishing with the top 5 recruiting class in the country. Not all of that is him. It's that logo. It's that stadium. It's those colors. Notre Dame's in a different place. I think Feinbaum is onto something there. Now, all of that said, Rees thinks that Notre Dame fans were kind of on him for offensive miscues and all these things. He struggles at Alabama.
Yeah.
He struggles at Alabama because this is a team that has had one of the best offenses in college football ever since Nick Saban said, hey, I'm going to make a change in my philosophy. We're not going to be as ground and pound as we were. We need high-flying quarterbacks, wide receivers. We're going to win Heisman trophies with quarterbacks and wide receivers and not running backs like Derrick Henry. Ever since Nick Saban made that change, Alabama fans have been used to nothing but prolific offense. And every single guy that's come in, Feinbaum listed the guys right there, they've worked. Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Bill O'Brien obviously wasn't the best, and he's out after 2 years.
Yeah.
So Tommy Rees is going to hear it down there, man. And I think he knows that, but I think maybe he might be underestimating how easy it's going to be because they can go 10-2, 11-1, but if they're losing because they're getting outscored and the offense wasn't working, he's going to hear it.
Yeah. Super chat, Drew Music, appreciate this. He says most articles say Notre Dame's top 10 for NIL. Man, I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I don't know what to make of Notre Dame and NIL. I think the players do well.
It's not publicized. I think that's what it is. Other schools want to flaunt it and be like, this is what we got. Notre Dame doesn't do that. So like you said, Mike, we don't really know.
I think Notre Dame players do well when they get there. I know Kyle Hamilton did very well. I'm sure Michael Mayer did very well. I think part of the problem is the pay for play that Notre Dame's just not going to do and other schools do. So, Charlie Weiss's last bell loop. Appreciate the 5. He says, well, Paul failed to mention if Notre Dame did play the pay for, that's a tongue twister, game like many of the SEC schools, Notre Dame would have the number 1 class every year. Yeah, if let's just say that, a few of these 5-star players of Notre Dame lost out on, NIL is a factor. I'm not going to get into that debate. But if it was, and Notre Dame could have, gone after and signed Dante Moore and Keelan Keeley and Peyton Bowen. Again, just assuming that NIL is a big deal there. Now you're talking about probably top 5 class, right? I mean, those all 5-star players. So, yeah, I've said this before. My opinion is that NIL is the worst thing that ever could have happened for Notre Dame. With Marcus Freeman as the head coach and an even playing field, I think Notre Dame could have been regularly signing top 5 classes, but NIL is just such a game changer. I've already seen, Tyler, differences in how recruits like handle themselves on social media. Like they're going out there, they're really trying to build their name in NIL and build a bigger social media following, and they want to go for the NIL money. They're following them. Recruiting's in a very weird place right now.
Yeah, and that's it's a snowball thing too. Like they see it working well at places like Alabama. Some of those recruits are gonna flash what they got, or you hear about it. It's even word of mouth, even. And then at places like Notre Dame, you don't hear about it as much. Well, where's the 17-year-old going to turn his attention to? The place where they are talking about it and they are hearing it. So I didn't want this to turn into like a recruiting conversation, but it's part of it. I mean, how much was that the conversation when Brian Kelly left in the first place? He made it that. Brian Kelly said, one of the biggest reasons I'm going down here is because it's going to be easier to recruit. And I think Tommy Rees is probably thinking the same thing. And then at the end of the day, I don't know if we've said this enough in this. It's going on a half-hour conversation now. Alabama is Alabama.
Yeah.
And for the people, I guess you did mention it at the beginning, Mike, for the people who are thinking this is a lateral move just because it's OC to OC, it's not. One of these schools has won 6 national titles in the last 15 years. The other hasn't won one since 1988. I mean, those are just the facts. And it's not a lateral move. That's when you mentioned it, Mike, when you said that he might want to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the NFL, I mean, look no further than Bill O'Brien. Did anybody ever think that he was going to end up in the NFL again, let alone with the New England Patriots of all teams? I know he has a history with them, but this guy crashed and burned with the Houston Texans as hard as anyone's crashed and burned in the NFL in recent memory, maybe outside of John Gruden. That's another conversation. But but he spends 2 years at Alabama and 2 years that they don't win the national title, which is a failure at Alabama. And he ends up back with the New England Patriots in the NFL as the offensive coordinator. I know he's not a head coach, but Tommy Rees would love to be the offensive coordinator in the NFL right now. Bill O'Brien just did it. He went through Nick Saban's rehab school for assistant coaches, and it worked. And look, Tommy Rees is starting from a place where he doesn't need the whole rehab thing. This isn't a Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. They flamed out at whatever school and they just need some help. Tommy Rees did fine here. It wasn't great, but he's still viewed as a very good offensive coordinator. Now he's going to a place where they got the best talent, so he could be great.
Yeah, a couple things on your point, and then I want to get to this super chat or this comment right here. Your point of like he's a good coach. Like I had been told that like just college coaches will just watch Notre Dame or like, holy crap, I love Notre Dame's offense. Like football minds really like Tommy Rees. But to go with this comment, Tommy needs a change of scenery to progress. I agree. I think he's going to go to Alabama. I think he's going to be humbled a little bit. I mean, think about it. I mean, he's been at Notre Dame for basically ever. I mean, he played there from 2010 to 13. I think the next year,
1/3 of his life.
Yeah.
1/3 of his for how long he's been on this earth. 4 years as a player, 6 years as a coach.
I think the next year he tried to dabble in the NFL, and then he was with Northwestern as a grad assistant, then the Chargers under John McNulty, I believe. And then Notre Dame. So, I mean, he needs a change of scenery. I think he's going to get humbled a little bit at Alabama, like for his quirkiness, and I mean, look, if you're Notre Dame for as long as he has been, he probably thinks he's the crap, right? I mean, and he is. I mean, it's Tommy Rees. I mean, he kind of he was basically the head coach of the offense. That's my understanding. Freeman has admitted many times in press conferences, I don't know a lot about offense. I defer to Tommy. Tommy was the head coach of the offense. When he goes to Alabama, I think it'll be really good, humbling learning experience for him. So
He's
I
not
like this one.
he's not that dude down there, right? You just mentioned he's Tommy Rees. He was Tommy Rees up here. I was surfing the Alabama message boards yesterday. A lot of these people don't even know who he is.
Yeah.
Like, could you tell me who Tommy Rees is? And I'm like, whoa, it's going to be different. So when you say he's going to get humbled, that comes in multiple ways. He's going to get humbled if they lose and the offense wasn't great, and he's going to be humbled just in everyday life when he goes down there and he's got to prove himself in a way, as most 30-year-old offensive coordinators do. But Tommy kind of had things handed to him here. I mean, Brian Kelly gave him the keys as the offensive coordinator as a 27-year-old. Not a lot of people get that.
Yeah.
And now he's 30 years old. He's the offensive coordinator at Alabama, but there's still an element of, hey, I got to go prove myself.
You're 27, right, Tyler?
I am 27, yeah. So
How
when
do you feel?
my age, he probably had more hair because he didn't lose his fantasy football league. Tommy Rees took the offensive coordinator job at I couldn't fathom that. I mean, I'm in my second job out of college. I just graduated in 2018. I spent 3 years in Mississippi. And then a year and a half ago, I moved up here. When Tommy Rees was my age, here are the keys to the Notre Dame offense. There you go. It's crazy.
I mean, seriously, like, I'm 29, and people still refer to me as a kid. I'm like, oh, you're so young. You're a kid. And Rees is 30, and he's the Alabama offensive coordinator. It's crazy, crazy. Man, I'm in Colorado right now. I don't know if you guys can see this, but no, not really. There's loads of snow out there. I was out shoveling.
Those two, right?
Dude, I was shoveling some snow.
You got to hit the slopes when you're out there. You said you're going to be out there like a week. You got to go skiing, man. Just take one day. We can handle the recruiting side. Maybe Notre Dame has an offensive coordinator by then, hopefully. But you got to go, man.
We'll see. My knees are bad. I got bad knees. Terry, appreciates the 10. He says most odd part is it feels like such a lateral move professionally. Yes, Bama, a little bit better. I don't know about that, Terry. But Lee's alma mater for lateral career move after choosing alma mater over Kelly. What's the real deal? A couple things before Tyler, you weigh in on this. One, I just don't think it's a lateral move. I mean, it's going from offensive coordinator from Notre Dame to another offensive coordinator job. 99% of those would be lateral, if not down moves. But Alabama is the one. Maybe Georgia, like Alabama, Georgia, those are the only two that I would say, yeah, that's an upward move as keeping the same job, in my opinion. Now, choosing Notre Dame over Kelly, I mean, he got a big pay bump to stay at Notre Dame last year. And, yeah, I just think he wanted to ride it out. Like, I'd heard that, like, as Buckner goes, Rees goes. Like, if Buckner balls out, Rees is going to ride this thing out with Buckner at Notre Dame. But if Buckner struggled, Rees might not be here past the 2022 season. Now, it's kind of a question mark because you can't really judge Buckner too much because of the injury. But, you know, that's kind of his track record, unfortunately. But so that's my thought about him leaving for for sticking with Notre Dame, LSU. I think Brian Kelly his move to LSU was just so weird and just was a weird fit, and that's why we didn't really see any major Notre Dame staffers leave with him for LSU.
Yeah, a couple things there. Last year when all that happened, it was a crazy time, and I think Rees did want to ride it out at Notre Dame. And look, a lot happened in this last year, and you mentioned the Buckner thing. It was a bad year for Tyler Buckner. And I'm not saying he played bad. It's just he was hurt for 10 games. And then he threw 3 interceptions in the bowl game. And that's Tommy Rees's last impression. I know he counted for 5 touchdowns. There was some really good, some really bad. There was enough there to say, hey, I might have something in this guy, but might is not going to overrule what I would call, Mike, the 1%. You said there's 99% of jobs where if you go OC to OC, that's a lateral move. Alabama is the 1%. And I'm not saying Tommy Rees, when he didn't take the LSU job, he was waiting it out to be like, hey, I want to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama someday. That is not what he was thinking in December of 2021. But now that we're in February of 2023 and we know everything that just happened with Notre Dame, I mean, this is a team that went 9-4. I'm probably not picking them to go to the college football playoff in 2023 as it stands right now. Now, could they win 10 games? Could they go 10-2? maybe even 11-1. I don't know. Sam Hartman balls out, sure, but you go down to Alabama, and I just think there's a higher ceiling for what he can do for his future, right? I mean, I don't think I'm crazy in saying that if Tommy Rees might only need 1 year at Alabama. If they go 12-0, 11-1, whatever, the offense looks really good, he can achieve what he wants to, which is go to the NFL. Because like you said earlier, Mike, there's a lot of people just football minds. And Tim Hyde is probably one of them. I haven't watched enough recently to know what his stance on Tommy Rees is, but I think he likes him, right? And he says there's some things that he's done wrong, but overall, Tommy Rees is a good football mind, right? And that's what they're looking for in the NFL. I think Tommy could spend 1 or 2 years down there, and we see him as the offensive coordinator for some NFL team in 2025. Muted, Mike.
Yeah. Do I have any echo when you're talking? Because I just keep muting myself because you've had some echo, so I just am playing the safe, and then you forget to unmute yourself. Yeah, I agree with this comment. I think Tyler Harker's brilliant, and that's why we have him on the YouTube show. He's awesome. Tim Hyde just sent me this, so he's watching. He says wife said happy hour and just turned on some Notre Dame football show. So yeah, appreciate you watching, Tim. Yeah, Tim is Tim's pretty happy for Rees. And I mean, yeah, from that perspective with Rees, yeah, if he wants to go be an NFL offensive coordinator and head coach one day, like I think this is a good move for him. And I think this is a good move for everyone. I think it's good for Notre Dame to kind of all of the Kelly coaches are gone. It's now Marcus Freeman's Notre Dame. This new offensive coordinator will be Marcus Freeman's offensive coordinator and not the offensive coordinator that was kind of, hey, Freeman, we'll hire you if we have Rees kind of deal. Like, this is a completely fresh start. And I think it's good for Rees to leave South Bend, go to the SEC. I just think this is a win for everyone. Maybe not for Alabama. We'll see.
You know it's not good when I was just perusing our message board, and one of the threads on there right now is this the end of the Alabama dynasty? So when you have a guy that was your offensive coordinator for 3 years and an assistant coach for 6 years go to another school, and that's the question you ask, it goes right back to my point of Tommy Rees needing to prove himself in a way at Notre Dame he never really had to over the last 6 years, because Brian Kelly was there for 5 of those years, and if anything went wrong, well, they're going to look to the head guy first. For 1 year and 1 year only, this past year, 2022, when things went wrong with the offense, people were able to say, okay, this might be a Tommy Rees issue. But for what I watched, and I was at most of these games, I think there was only a couple that I wasn't actually in person at the game for. Tommy Rees did enough with a 5'11" backup quarterback for me to say, hey, this guy's done some pretty good things. I know not every team has Michael Mayer, and a lot of the times it was just throw it up to this guy, but he schemed some things for Michael Mayer. He schemed some things for Drew Pine. He schemed some things for the Notre Dame running game that I really liked. So now he's just got to do that all at a place that demands nothing but excellence, demands nothing but championships. So it's going to be interesting. This is Tommy Rees has grown so much in his 6-7 year college coaching career. Never has he had to grow more and prove more this year at Alabama, because clean slate, fresh slate, you're working for the GOAT, you're working for the best. And hey, if you want to see some fired up, throw the headset off rants, we might get some with Nick Saban and Tommy Rees. And boy, that's going to be good content on our message board, isn't it, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Rees versus Kelly. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine? Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. All right, last thing. I said, hey, Tyler, let's get on here for 10 or 15 minutes. Here we are 40 minutes in. As you mentioned the message board, I was like, man, this Colorado air has just been killing me. As you said that, I was like, oh, crap. We haven't been – Patrick's out this weekend, right? So it's me and you kind of handling the message board. We haven't been on there for 40 minutes after this news broke. That only spells trouble. It looks like they're behaving. Let's look at this quarterback room with 5 scholarship guys, Kenny Minchie and Steve Angeli having 4 years of eligibility. Of course, Angeli just redshirted in 2022. Got Buckner and Paulus, the class of 2021 quarterbacks. Both guys have redshirted now. And then you have Sam Hartman, the 1 year rental. What are just kind of your thoughts about this quarterback room?
Yeah, it's interesting because If Hartman stays, and we talked at the beginning, we think he will. He came to Notre Dame. He signed his papers. He's in class. He's going to be Notre Dame's starting quarterback in 2023. Where do you go in 2024 is the question. I think that's going to come up a lot in these interviews that Marcus Freeman and the rest of the coaches are going to be doing. The first thing that these guys are going to look at is say, okay, you got Sam Hartman, but he's only here for 1 year. Who then? And you talked about maybe Tyler Buchner even leaving to go to Tuscaloosa with Tommy Rees. That makes things more interesting because then you're looking at in 2024, Angeli, Minchie, Carr, and I know you have Palace there, but that's enough to be said about Ron Powers the third. Like what's going on with the 2024 quarterback situation? I think that was a big storyline before Tommy Rees even made this move. For the last 5 weeks, probably since Buchner started in that Gator Bowl, a lot of the dominating topic of conversation on our message board was, okay, I love Sam Hartman. I think he's going to be really good at Notre Dame for this 1 year, but where does this put us? This is another one of those things where you kind of set back the guy who was supposed to be the guy right now. Like for all intents and purposes, you mentioned it earlier, Mike, Tyler Buchner was supposed to be the starting quarterback for Notre Dame, not only in 2022, but in 2023 and maybe even 2024. Now you don't even know if that's the case. Is it going to be Carr who comes in as a true freshman? I don't know. Is Kenny Minchie that guy? Steve Angeli is kind of like in an intermediary like position. I know you love him. You throw him in right now, but it's an interesting point. And look, all of that to say this, Tommy Rees didn't leave because the Notre Dame quarterback was murky going into 2024.
Fantastic quarterback room. Really is, I think.
Headlined by Steve Angeli, right? Tommy Rees didn't say, oh, I've got nothing at quarterback, I'm bolting. I think there's enough there. It's just going to be interesting to see how those pieces fall. And like I said, whoever gets hired, he's looking right at that quarterback room and saying, all right, what do you got for me in the next 2, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, down the line, it's kind of murky. But for this season, Rees, the past 7 months or so, him landing Carr, Minchie, and Hartman, that's the best he's done easily in a 7-month period. It's not like a 3-year period, right?
For
so
sure.
That next quarterbacks coach is coming in with a good room. Now, what it looks like the year after, that's just college football, right? You can't have Tom Brady for 20 years. Alabama just had Bryce Young for a while, and now their quarterback room looks murky. So that's just kind of college football. But yeah, there's plenty of talent there. A couple super chats. Joey says, happy Friday, Mike and Tyler. Happy Friday to you, Joey. Really appreciate the super chat. This is not what I planned on doing with my Friday. Have a lot of magazine stuff to do for Blue and Gold Illustrated, but that'll just get done when it gets done. All right, Drew Music says, but why do we give the guy who recruited and developed the QBs bonus points? Because the QBs aren't good. Yeah, I made the point of it's kind of a back and forth thing of Rees did a good job with what he had, but what he had is because of that's his recruiting, especially at the quarterbacks, going back to Phil Drakovic's class. I think Pine was already committed, and maybe even Dracovic by the time that Rees had gotten there. I know those guys were committed so early, but the offense is the personnel is what it is in large part because of Rees. So
yeah. I definitely have a thought on this. I think Tommy Rees is an excellent football mind. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, I think he's an awesome play caller when you just give him a perfect situation. Just give him all the personnel and say, hey, scheme up some stuff to do really good things with these guys. Alabama is the perfect place for a guy like that. If that's what we're talking about, where, look, you said Bryce Young is gone and they don't really know. When has an Alabama quarterback come in and it's been like, oh, man, he's terrible? Something is going to work out for them with the quarterback position, and they have talented skill guys. That's a perfect situation for Tommy Rees, and that's why he wants to go to the NFL in the first place. Is you don't recruit NFL players. You draft them, and you hope your front office is good to get the right guys in there, but he doesn't have to worry about that when he goes to the NFL. Give him the guys. He'll scheme up the stuff. Alabama's a perfect place for that. Turns out Notre Dame probably wasn't, because there might have been some developmental miscues, and maybe these guys could have done a little bit better over the years, and Rees could have prepared them a little bit better. But it just all goes back to this making total sense for Tommy Rees, and that the super chat that you just brought up is a good exemplifier of that.
Yep, this will be a make or break hire for Freeman era. Yeah, I mean, I think you can absolutely make that argument. And then I think this is an interesting comment. As offensive coordinator, Rees has had Book, Cone, Buckner, and Pine, and now he'll have 5-star quarterbacks to develop. And again, those are players that like Rees. Rees didn't recruit Book, but the others, and maybe to an extent not as much Pine, but like everyone else were coached and developed. By Rees. So I don't know if it's now we'll have 5 stars to develop. Yeah, well, why didn't he didn't bring 5 stars like the big time guys to Notre Dame? That's kind of my point here. Drew Music says 100% agree with that. Have a good night, guys. Appreciate you. Hey, what's up, Mason Plummer? Former Blue and Gold staffer. What's going on? He says whoever the new OC is couldn't ask for a better first year situation. Absolutely agree. As at least the quarterback room stands right now. Now, do all 5 of these guys remain this fall is the question. If they do, it's honestly, in my opinion, it's one of the better quarterback rooms in the country. Would you agree with me?
Barring injury, you really only need that one that's on the far right there, though.
Yeah.
And I've been watching this guy over and over and over again, and I finally finished my film rewatch. I'm impressed, man. I think he's going to be really good, and I wrote it for blueandgold.com in there's Ollie making his appearance. In my reactionary piece, it doesn't matter who walks in that door for Notre Dame for this next offensive coordinator position. I think Sam Hartman is going to do what Sam Hartman does, and that's throw a lot of touchdown passes. Now there's going to be a couple interceptions, but that comes with throwing the ball downfield, and he wasn't going to throw the ball downfield a lot because the Tommy Rees offense, that's what it does. That's what Sam Hartman does, and whoever comes in, I think he's going to do that at Notre Dame.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our live show. Tyler, appreciate you. Like I said, 10 to 15 minutes. Here we are, 47 minutes in. So I appreciate you folks watching till the end. If you're just now joining us, just rewind, head to the beginning, watch a replay of the show. Please do hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. And head over to blueandgold.com. We'll do our very best to have the latest news and updates on Notre Dame's offensive coordinator position. So please do head over to blueandgold.com for all that, the recruiting information, the fallout from that. Again, blueandgold.com is your home for all things Notre Dame football. Appreciate you all for watching. And as always, we'll catch you next time.